Okay, there we are. I hope that everyone can hear me loud and clear. Hold on one second. Just gonna wait here a couple seconds. Can everyone hear me? Feel free to chat in the chat box if you can't. So I am so excited to be here talking about building boundaries with essential oils. Um, Essential oils and boundaries actually go completely hand in hand, which we'll get to in a little bit, but I will be referencing this book called Emotions and Essential Oils. It's an incredible reference. But I wanted to take a second to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carly Schweet, and I'm a holistic health coach based out of Seattle, Washington. And I'm a graduate of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and I've been practicing health coaching for about a year and a half now. I started Coaching by Carly with the intent of helping busy men and women bring balance, fulfillment, and healthy nutrition back into their busy lives. But I've recently found that most of my clients struggle with getting from their busy life to living a healthy, balanced life because of lack of boundaries. More on that in a bit. Other than my health coaching certification, I also hold a culinary nutrition certification from the Natural Gourmet Institute in New York City. And I am most recently a doTERRA wellness advocate, and I'm obsessed with essential oils. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I have some stuff to share with you. One second. All right. So building boundaries with essential oils. This is a quote that I found while in Costa Rica, and I absolutely love it. And I think it kind of sets the tone for what I'm trying to convey. It says, love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious. You get to choose how you use it. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and won't accept. Think about that for a second. You teach people how to treat you. So here I am, Coaching by Carly. And just last week, I came back from a retreat in Costa Rica called Love Yourself First, where I took 10 men and women to the beautiful country of Costa Rica, and we learned all about putting ourselves first. And it was an amazing experience to watch everyone's transformations and really see where people were struggling and where people needed to build boundaries. And every day I was incorporating an essential oil to help support our boundary building practice, which is the reason I felt so inspired to host this webinar tonight. So here's me in a waterfall, loving myself first. And this is just a beautiful view that I had to include because it's absolutely amazing. So to give some context as to what boundaries are, I wanted to give you guys a quick crash course on boundaries. So what are boundaries? To me, boundaries are simply internal rules that govern what behaviors are okay with us and what behaviors are completely not okay with us. And it's very important to keep in mind that boundaries vary by person to person, situation to situation, and it also varies by the other person involved in the boundary building or boundary violating process. So they're completely different for everyone. think something really interesting is the fact of why we don't build boundaries. And I personally, for me, a year ago, the idea of building boundaries was really scary. Um, as humans, we feel guilty or bad or selfish or rude, and we talk ourselves down and convince ourselves that we're being too much of something negative. So, too picky, too uptight, too dramatic. We're asking for too much. And we usually talk ourselves down, right, from asking for certain things in our lives. Oh, yeah. And as a side note, I've completely told myself all of these things in the past to avoid building boundaries or having that awkward conversation around building a boundary. And I'm sure you guys are probably nodding along in your head, thinking about times that you've done the same. So, as a refresher, boundaries are internal rules, internal, that govern what behaviors are okay and what behaviors are not, simply put. So why should we build boundaries? Oh, side note, feel free to screenshot this as we go along. I kept all the text on here because I think this can make as a really great point of reference for everyone that's listening. Clearly you're interested in learning more about building boundaries, so feel free to screenshot all of this information and reference it. To me, building boundaries is the ultimate form of self-care. Without boundaries, we become completely depleted at the end of the day, and we're not able to fully open ourselves up to the present moment or engage honestly with our intuition, with others, with friends, with family, because quite honestly, I feel like we have nothing else to give because we're constantly giving, giving, giving. There's no boundary as to when to stop. People are leeching off of us, you know, our time, our energy, our knowledge, our compassion, you name it. People are taking and we're willing to give until it's too late. And when we have clear boundaries, we give ourselves the chance to literally create more time and energy within our day and reserve those two precious resources to the people in our lives that deserve it the most. And I know for me personally, when I was boundary free, I would neglect those closest to me because I knew at the end of the day they would be there for me. And while that didn't change when I built boundaries, I realized, you know what? Those people are still there for me, but I can treat them better because I'm not exhausted and I'm not running around all day to a million different appointments or happy hours or dinners that, quite frankly, I don't necessarily want to go to. So I think that's a really big aha moment for me and for others, is that you can't show up for others, especially the ones that you love the most, when you're giving everything to everyone. This is one of my favorite ones. How do we know if our boundaries are being violated? So we've talked about what boundaries are. We've talked about why we don't build boundaries. We've talked about why we should build boundaries. Now let's talk about how we know they're being violated. Before we even have a clear knowledge of if boundaries exist in our lives, I've discovered it's possible to tell whether or not they're being violated. I remember listening to Gabby Bernstein talk in New York about 2 years ago, and she was talking about energy drain. And I had no idea what that was at that point in time. And it stuck with me because I think it's a really real situation that happens when people, when you leave a situation with a specific person, and you feel emotionally exhausted, physically drained, like you have to just sit down or take a nap or like zone out at that exact moment because you physically can't move on. or moments when you feel really resentful or angry towards an individual, even though they might have not outright done anything to you, or when you're feeling really frustrated. You know, I really encourage my clients in those moments to take a look around and say, okay, what boundaries are being violated here? Am I violating a personal boundary of mine by saying yes to too many things, by being the yes woman, taking on too much and spreading myself too thin? Or is someone else violating my boundary by saying rude or condescending remarks to me, or assuming that my time is not as important? There's two different ways that our boundaries can be violated. So in those moments of exhaustion, anxiety, frustration, guilt, kind of take a step back and see, am I doing this to myself? Am I crossing my own physical boundary? Or is someone doing this to me? Here's some examples that might kind of have an aha moment for you. Family functions that leave you feeling completely exhausted and oftentimes like feeling attacked. The happy hour, this was me, that you drag yourself to and end up completely exhausted the next day and not quite sure why you agreed to go in the first place. That was definitely me. Saying yes to everything to make others happy and ultimately leaving yourself unhappy and or resentful towards others. Usually we become resentful to the person that we are completely giving ourselves to with not much in return. So, Boundaries 101 crash course. I hope that you guys are all with me on this. So before we jump into my favorite boundary supporting essential oils, I want to talk about why essential oils are so incredible. So the potency of essential oils is absolutely amazing. I remember when I learned these facts, and I was just amazed by how quickly and effectively essential oils can affect us. So when you inhale essential oils, either directly from the bottle or through a diffuser, which I'm diffusing right now, of course, it only takes 22 seconds for the essential oil to reach the brain. And when applied topically, it takes 2 minutes to reach our bloodstream. And within 20 minutes, every cell in our entire body has been affected by the oil that you have either inhaled or applied topically. Here's like a semi-casual example of essential oils in the olfactory system, which I think is really, really fascinating. So the fragrance enters through the nasal passage. I'm so not scientific, by the way, so this is about as scientific as it gets. Travels up through the nasal cavity to the olfactory bulb, and then reaches the limbic system of the brain. And this is what amazes me. The limbic system is where the aroma is processed and releases neurochemicals that can either be relaxing or stimulative, depending on what essential oil you're using. So as you'll see as we go through these essential oils here in a second, they really do help assist your brain and your body with, feeling more confident, feeling more calm, feeling more energized, feeling a little bit more empowered, which I think is super important when building boundaries. So feel free to screenshot this. I think it's a really, really great diagram. Okay. Moving on. So I'm going to tell you my top 5 essential oils for building boundaries. And I have some bonus ones at the end for you all. If you guys are new to essential oils, We might not have any of these at home, but we'll get to that. And if you guys are seasoned with essential oils, you might be surprised to learn some alternative uses for some oils that you might already have sitting around. Again, a lot of this information comes from the amazing handbook, Emotions and Essential Oils. It is my favorite. So, oil number 1 is basil. I think having basil when building boundaries is really important because it really helps to evoke feelings of more of a loving vibration, and it's more renewing to the mind and the body. It helps with feelings of fatigue, low energy, overwhelm, common symptoms, or I'm sorry, common side effects of boundaries being violated, right? So this essential oil can certainly help support those side effects of violated boundaries. In addition to getting rid of those or helping to get rid of those, it replaces it with a renewed energy. So for me, turning to basil when you're feeling anxious or nervous, especially when it comes to the act of setting healthy boundaries, basil is a huge, 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 great choice for setting boundaries, just to help with the nervousness and the anxiety. So oftentimes people ask me, like, how do you use essential oils? And I think sometimes people are worried that they're doing it wrong, but for the most part, you're probably not doing it wrong. There's certain oils you certainly need to be careful about ingesting, or certain oils you need to be careful about applying topically, but for the most part, quite versatile. So with basil, I love the idea of applying a few drops to your heart, especially when you're going into a conversation about setting a boundary, because usually people are experiencing their ego pop up when going into a conversation about setting boundaries. The ego saying, I'm scared, you're not worthy, why are you doing this, you're being so dramatic. So adding some basil to your heart will help calm the ego and help calm your anxiety over a boundary that might be being violated or a boundary that's being set. And then also inhaling directly from the bottle. If you find yourself in a challenging conversation and quickly are losing trust of yourself, which typically happens when telling others no, or when others challenge your boundary, which I think is a really interesting point, because we're not home free when we set the boundary. It's people certainly will try to challenge you and see how you stand on your boundary. So basil can help to restore that trust in yourself. Second oil that I love for building boundaries is rosemary. Rosemary is known as the oil of knowledge and transition, which I love the idea of using an oil of transition while building a boundary, because if you think about it, building a boundary is allowing us to create more time, create more energy, and allowing us to change, and allowing us to transition in some parts of our lives. And also, rosemary is the perfect choice for protection against negative energy. So back to what I was saying about Gabby Bernstein, like how she was saying people can leech off of your energy and kind of drain you. Well, we have to be sure to protect our energy in the first place. So some examples of negative energy that you might experience this holiday season: exhausting relatives, grumpy travelers, that are like yelling at the flight attendants or all pissed off. You don't want to take that energy into your space. So you physically need to like build a mental boundary. And then unhappy children, it's just easy to get caught up in everyone else's emotions, especially in times of high stress. Rosemary also helps to energize the nervous system and uplift your natural spirit. And I also love rosemary because it's a really great support tool to help you realize your value. And realizing your value is probably the key component to building strong and healthy boundaries, because if you don't know your value, it's hard to kind of trust yourself and say, this boundary is important to me and this is why, and take it or leave it. So having that kind of backup is really important. So when do you use rosemary? Turn to rosemary when you need protection from someone, especially someone else's negative energy. Remember, and I said this so many times on my retreat, the other person's energy involved in a boundary building situation is not yours to carry. I will repeat that. Other people's energy is not yours to carry. You can elect to carry certain people's, I don't want to say carry, you can elect to hold space for certain people. For example, like I did on the retreat, I secured my own space, but I also held space for others, and I made a safe and comfortable environment for them. Trusting, without judgment, but I chose to do that instead of people inflicting their energy upon me. Rosemary is also perfect when you need another gentle reminder of your value. So times of self-doubt, rosemary is a really great tool to use. Apply a few drops of rosemary to each temple to help in mental clarity and bring confidence when building boundaries or making decisions. Again, going back to your value. This is number 3, is one of my all-time favorite essential oils for multiple reasons, not only because of the emotional properties, but also the physical ones as well. Melaleuca it's also known as tea tree oil, and I've been using tea tree oil for cuts and scrapes since I can remember, because it's a natural antiseptic and it's amazing. So, disinfectant by nature, Melaleuca helps to clear negative baggage caused by certain relationships or people or situations. And like I said before, and I said on my retreat multiple times, every person, every situation, every conversation that you find yourself in carries energy. It's either negative or positive, and it's really up to you to decide what energy you let into your personal space, what energy you allow past your boundaries or your barriers. And some of these beings, I will call them, have the ability to drain our energy through leakage. And leakage is, when we let things get out, and it builds this like parasitic relationship where someone's constantly leeching from you or taking from you. And Melaleuca will help support building new healthy boundaries. Here's a quote directly from Emotions and Essential Oils because I absolutely loved it. Melaleuca encourages an individual to relinquish all forms of self-betrayal, including allowing others to take advantage of one's time, energy, or talents, letting others feed on one's energy, not standing up for oneself, or feeling responsible for the problems of others. This last one, feeling responsible for the problems of others, just like, yes, thank you. So when do you use Melaleuca? Turn to Melaleuca when you start to feel energetically drained, um, and or when a relationship has become completely one-sided, back to that parasitic kind of leeching energy relationship, which our energy is too precious, and we have to remember that. So how do you use Melaleuca? Besides putting it on your cuts, which I do, you need to place a drop on each foot to help you stay grounded throughout the day and to kind of help lift your energetic spirit. And then also inhale before bed to help bring rejuvenation to the mind and the body. So number 4 is frankincense. I know there's a lot of frankincense fans out there. It is called the oil of truth, and I've also heard it called the king of all oils because frankincense has an amazing way to kind of help you out with what you're needing without you even knowing what you're needing, if that even makes sense. It also helps to shield the body and soul from negative influences. So again, people who are trying to violate your boundaries, people who are asking too much of you, frankincense will help to shield you from that energy. And it also helps to let go of lower vibrations, negativity, and encourage the creation of new perspectives. So as you're building boundaries, you have to let go of the negative thought process, the ego, the fear, the living from a place of lack or not feeling worthy enough, and then create new perspectives based on your true value. And these new perspectives most likely will reflect, positive properties, hopefully. Frankincense also reminds individuals that they are loved and protected, which is also very, very important when being vulnerable and building boundaries, to feel more loved and protected, and to feel our values come to light. I mean, it's invaluable, no pun intended. So frankincense is a great oil to use when you are feeling completely exhausted or needing to put your shield up. So think of frankincense as like your knight in shining armor when you are completely worn out and tired of lower vibrations and lies and negativity and really need some help getting through. Frankincense will assist in protecting your presence of your precious energy and your mind. So how do you use it? Place a few drops over your heart to encourage protection and encourage higher energy to be brought into your life. Some people might have a reaction to it, so just dilute it with fractionated coconut oil if you do notice that it doesn't feel quite right. And then diffusing throughout the day will help to just create a higher, stronger vibration throughout your room or whatever space you're working in at that moment. Of course, you can also just inhale it directly from the bottle. And last but not least, On Guard, the oil of protection, appropriately named. On Guard is an amazing blend of wild orange, clove, cinnamon, rosemary, remember rosemary from earlier, and eucalyptus. Side note, clove is also called the oil of boundaries. We're getting to that in a second. So you can see On Guard has a lot of really good positive properties when it comes to helping to build boundaries. On Guard is helpful for strengthening the inner self, especially for those that have a weakened boundary due to a violation of their personal space, like Hello, that's amazing. To have an oil that can help with this. This unique blend gives individuals the strength to say no to people or situations that might not be serving them, and ultimately using On Guard as a way to strengthen our no and reinforce our why will help us to maintain our clear boundaries. And then, side note, On Guard is amazing to strengthen our immune system against bacteria, mold, and viruses. It has multiple duties, just like all of these oils. So when should you use On Guard, this beautiful blend? Turn to this blend when you need to stand up for yourself a little bit more. When your true self is ready to come out and it just needs a little push. On Guard is a great choice when you need to cut out codependency, right? And back to our parasitic relationships and emotional viruses, which all of these oftentimes come with boundary violation. So how do you use it? Place a drop on each foot to help you stay guarded throughout the day. It's also, putting On Guard on your feet is also great to just help protect your immune system throughout the day, right? That boundary, physical, mental boundary. And then also diffusing throughout the day or inhaling from the bottle. Okay. For those of you who might be a little bit more familiar with essential oils, here's two that I love and also incorporated into Costa Rica. Vetiver, my all-time favorite, is the oil of centering and descent. So vetiver is derived from a deep root, so it's very, very grounded. It smells very natural and woodsy, and it helps to restore a balance while providing the support you might need in that exact moment. Vetiver can also help protect your own energy from being affected by others. Remember that energy drain is a common side effect of violated boundaries, and every situation has energy in it, so it's important to protect our energy and not let it be taken by others. So vetiver can help to reestablish that boundary. And clove. Clove is delicious, and it's, well, it smells delicious, and and it's also known as the oil of boundaries. Clove helps individuals stand up for themselves, be proactive, and feel capable of making their own decisions. Take note of this, regardless of others' opinions or responses. I'm going to read that again. Clove helps individuals stand up for themselves, be proactive, and feel capable of making their own decisions, regardless of others' opinions or responses. What a novel idea. This essential oil allows individuals the chance to say no and reignite the inner soul fire. I love clove. So those are all 7 of the essential oils, essentially, that I love for helping to set boundaries. As you can see, they serve different purposes. Some help us to protect our own energy. Some help us to protect us from the energy of others. Some help instill feelings of trust and value within ourselves. They may bring more confidence to us and remind us of why we're setting boundaries in the first place. And above all, I urge you to remember, establishing boundaries is not selfish. You have a right to clear boundaries that are honored by both you and the people that you are setting boundaries with. It is your right. And that telling someone no, or telling a situation no, only in turn allows you to say yes to others. And not only are you saying yes to others, you're saying yes to others more fully, and you're allowing yourself to show up and be more present and be more loving and be the person you truly are, but not the exhausted person, not the resentful person, not the self-doubting person that sometimes the ego likes to make us think that we are. Remember, you cannot serve others from an empty cup, at least not sustainably. I've tried it. You end up harboring a lot of resentment and a lot of anger, and it's not fun for anyone. And this is my favorite one, and we also talked a lot about this in Costa Rica, and it was kind of a big aha moment that it is your responsibility to let others know when they're violating your personal space. It's not anyone else's. It's your responsibility to let others know when they're violating your personal space. Teach others how to treat you. And above all, just remember that you're worthy. I'm going to put this back up here just for a second if you guys want to take a screenshot or write any of these down. I think these affirmations are really important. All right. So if anyone is interested, if you already don't use essential oils, I have included some instructions in this handout, or I'm sorry, in this presentation about how to purchase essential oils. Also, totally email me and we can chat. It's carly@coachingbycarly.com. And for those of you who use essential oils with doTERRA or other brands, consider ordering those. Any of the ones that you don't already have, and adding them to your arsenal. So anyone who purchases tonight will receive a special welcome kit from me with a tiny mini booklet of all the physical uses for essential oils, which I was sent when I first started, and my mind was kind of blown, and I still have it and still reference it to this day. But you just have to purchase by tonight. And then this is my favorite kit, and the kit that I started with, the Home Essentials kit. It's by far the most popular, and I think it's definitely the best value. It's $275, but you get the top 10 most popular essential oils, and it has On Guard in it, and it has frankincense, and it has melaleuca in it. So if you were paying attention, you would know that melaleuca, frankincense, and On Guard are 3 of my 5 favorite oils for building boundaries. So you'd be off to a pretty stellar start with that. And then you'd also get lavender, lemon, peppermint, oregano, deep blue, which is an amazing muscle rub, breathe, which is nice, like decongestant, and digestin, which I literally never leave the home without. It's a really great digestive blend. Oh, and obviously you get a diffuser because you need one for sure. So here's the instructions on how to order if you are interested. I will keep this up here so you can take a screenshot. I've also uploaded a file to GoToWebinar, so you should be able to access that. You want to take a quick screenshot, www.mydoterra.com/coachingbycarly, and just follow the prompts. I'm going to come back on the screen and see if anyone has some questions. Keep these up for you now. All right. Well, thank you guys all for listening. I hope that you guys took something away, and I'd love to hear your feedback. So feel free to Facebook message me or shoot me an email because I'd love to hear your thoughts. Take care. Just a reminder, sign up tonight. I will send you a special welcome kit to help you start building your boundaries with essential oils. Bye.